Very welcome to our webinar on Detrans Awareness Day. Thanks very much for coming. And last year we did one, and as a result, we opened up a service called Beyond Trans, and it provides therapy and other services, group support, job, kind of helping job skills, professional consultancy, different hangouts, different kind of supports for people who've moved beyond medical transition. And so we thought we'd do it again this year for the very same reason. And the idea is to highlight the voices of people who have medically transitioned and thought, hang on, I've been harmed by this. I was a healthy body. What happened? And also to make sure that we make it a kind of an empowering situation where, yeah, it shouldn't have happened, and now what? That's kind of where we're going with this. We've got lots of people who have medically transitioned here, and I'm going to try and talk as little as possible and just bring it out of you. I'll begin with Ritchie. So you're very welcome, Ritchie. I think a lot of us know you, but it would be nice if you kind of gave your kind of, for anybody who doesn't know, because not everybody will, if you gave your kind of basics of your story. And maybe what we could do is ask everybody else, turn off your video while just me and Ritchie are chatting, and turn it back on when I invite you back in, if you follow me. It just makes it easier, you know, because otherwise everybody would be looking at you. So Ritchie, would you start, tell us where you were at. How did you come to a decision that you should medically transition?
So I medically transitioned at the age of 26. I'm male, and I had a lot of mental health issues from a variety of different things growing up. Autistic, OCD, really bad OCD, like severe. Didn't really fit in. I was gay, and I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, and gay was always the joke. And it was like, I kind of had a feeling that it might have been accepted, but I knew it wasn't like the favorable outcome. So I kind of catastrophized myself a little bit too much, and I was a little bit like, I really don't want to be this way. And of course, I was also obsessed with the internet. And at first, I was just going from rabbit hole and looking for theories to find, why am I this way? Why do I have these insane, intrusive thoughts? Why am I like this? And at first, I was like, something must have happened that I just couldn't remember, which is a lot. Obviously, that was like a latch on from the false memory syndrome of like the 90s and 2000s. And as I was just kind of coming out of that, I had this, I found the online trans community. And
can I ask just two things there, because it's really good points you made. One is, was OCD driving you to look for an answer, or was being gay in a homophobic climate, or was it a combo of both? And was it 80-20 or 50-50?
I would say OCD was the wheels of the car, but
wow,
you know, the car itself was probably maybe the homophobia and everything else in between, but it was all part and part of the same vehicle, you know what I mean? It was very much part. Yeah, you couldn't have one without the other. You take one of those aspects away and I probably wouldn't have transitioned, in my mind.
Okay.
Because I felt like it was just, you know, the right perfect combination of vectors that fed me into this community. And as I've found from a lot of chats with other detransitioners, it was like we were almost primed for this. We were ready and waiting. And it's not a case that you have this mystical gender identity. It's quite simple, really. You've got somebody with trauma. You've got somebody who's got a very black and white view of the world, you know, of men and women and stuff like that. Same-sex attraction, really bad mental health, bullying, not fitting in. And you find the trans community, and they basically like, yep, that's you, you know. And my next obsession was, oh my God, I'm trans. If I let testosterone like continue ruining my body, because I was already 25, 26 at this point, like I really believed I was being poisoned as I was living. And that feeling like you've got an actual poison in you, and the people have the antidote, but and they're keeping it from you, it just sends you in this like frenzy, you know. And I was just like, I need this, I need this, I need this. So like many people at the very start, I believed it was like a life or death situation to get the blogger. And then I paid for a private assessment to get the diagnosis over 3 appointments on 2 days. It was really, really quick. I got a payday loan and that out because I had a very low income too. And then I started on the blocker whilst I was waiting for the gender clinic to refer us on. And then about 7 or 8 months later, I officially got enrolled into the gender clinic. And then I got enrolled with the gender therapist. And I tried a detransition in 2014 and 15, but I kind of had it restarted, and kind of because people just keep saying, you know, just wait for your gender clinic appointment, just wait for your gender clinic appointment.
And you actually thought, there's a thing called trans, it's in me, and as long as I am producing testosterone, I'm effectively poisoning myself. I need estrogen to stop it. This is
well, I was more worried. I wasn't too much worried about the estrogen at that point. I was more worried about the poisoning of testosterone. I was like, you know, I fully believe that if you just took the estrogen, it would just work, right? So it didn't matter when you took it, as long as you stopped the testosterone, it didn't matter what you did. So that was my priority, was
and did anybody push back and say, what are you talking about?
Me mum. Yeah, she was like,
the mothers.
yeah, I know. The first thing she said was, are you sure you're not just gay? Which was kind of like me brother's reaction too. And a lot of others, because I was like, no, of course not. That's impossible. What's possible though is I am a woman trapped in a man's body. That's what's possible. That's what's up here. And they just thought that
I'd say
I was unreachable. I was insane. Like I was actually like unreachable.
I'd say you were very compelling. You'd say, no, 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 I'm not gay. I wouldn't have a problem if I was gay. I'd imagine you were very compelling.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you can imagine how I am now, imagine if you increase the insanity and like a little bit more, about 30-40% up, and then you add that in, you could see how someone like me could like, and that's what I did. I would go out these things, especially in the workplace, and promote LGBT, and I would present a very kind and articulate face to the movement. And that really drew people in, because it was like, oh, here's somebody who's speaking sense and sincerely. And all the things that I was wrongly attributing, I was still able to write about. I was still able to write about the pain and stuff. So that ability to tell that story never went away. It was just, I completely reframed it in transition for the way I was, you know.
Wow. And what do you think anybody could have said? You said you're unreachable, because that's the big question. It's the $100 question, well, the $1 million question. Where are you reachable? Was there anything somebody could have said at any point?
I think this is at the point where it's now up to the professionals to say no, right? I think that's the area I was at. So rather than professionals going, hang on, because keep in mind, I was getting therapy, like, well, psychotherapy for the OCD. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to continue that to the next level was because I had an obsession at the time. It was different to what it started, because it started with this, something terrible must have happened and I've just forgotten it. And by the last session, it was like, forget all that. I'm 100% sure I'm trans. And then he was like, well, we can't refer you on to the next session because it's just going to feed that obsession. So they kind of just ignored it. But the gender clinic was certainly aware too. And what should have really happened then is you've literally just been diagnosed with severe like OCD, because I was very unwell with OCD. And I mean unwell.
I hear you. And OCD is the biggie for me anyway, because that's rumination and it's going on and it's so compelling. Do you think you got enough attention for the OCD, or what were your therapists thinking about the OCD?
My therapist, the one who diagnosed me, like, he said some things that really took a lot of the weight out, because I thought I was like really evil, and I thought I was really like totally just absolutely mental. And he was just like, you know, if you really were evil, if you really were all like this, would you worry about it, or would you just go off and be evil? And I was like, well, that's quite a good challenge. And when that was adequately challenged, that's when the trans stuff just took over. It was like instantly, literally, like I said, one session, I went, forget all that. And I was giving him the pure crazy eyes. I was like, forget all that. I'm trans. I'm 99% sure I'm trans. And he was like, okay, I've just diagnosed your OCD, but okay. And then the next week after, that's when I said, forget what I said about last week about 99%. I am 100% sure I'm trans, like without a shadow of a doubt.
And you don't think he should have said, well, I know a lot about OCD because I'm qualified, and you would think that because people who are OCD are often very much in search of certainty and solutions and,
Yeah.
you know, frameworks.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it was from one contamination to the next. So I went from the contamination of my thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, to the contamination of testosterone in my body. But those are contamination, if that makes sense, which is quite
Wow.
a very common thing in
Yeah,
OCD, to like
OCD.
to fear germs and being contaminated. It just comes out in ways that I didn't realize until retrospect, you know?
Yeah. Impure thoughts and purity, and it's a big thing with OCD.
Yeah.
And so then keep going. You said I'm 100%.
I was just basically like, I'm 100%, and it was the last session when that happened. Unfortunately, it was just, we didn't have enough time, and all he could do was write it up, and hopefully I'd get filtered off through the system, which was, I think, what he was relying on. And the doctor, because the way it works in the UK is you self-refer at the gender clinic when you're an adult. So you ring your GP, and if the GP agrees, they send off the referral. Most GPs just send off the referral. My GP was very understanding, they're very empathetic. They're like, we've never really had one before, is what I used to say. And they noted everything down, like down to a T. I was very open about everything, because I really believed that this would fix me. So there was no point in lying. And I read online that trans people are encouraging not to say certain things in therapy. And I was like, no, because I am true trans, and I know this will come up later, all right? Because I am the most true trans, I need to get everything out, because if I sort out all my issues now, I can live a wonderful, happy life for the rest of my life. So
That's a
be
key
honest.
point. You went with utter honesty and transparency and saying, this is me. And yet you were still kind of moved towards medical transition inappropriately.
Well, so this is where the gender therapist came in. So this is really intensive. So I came in at 2015 at the gender clinic at the start, and immediately got referred to surgery, and and then I put a pause to it, because I was like, this is too quick, this is too fast for me. But I was also seeing a gender therapist to work through it. And first time OCD came out was, you can just be a trans person with OCD. And then I was like, I don't think this is for me, da, 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 da. And you'll be like, that's just your internalized transphobia talking. Anything that was related to me struggling with being gay was related to me coming to terms with being trans. So if I was attracted to men, like I am very heavily physically attracted to men, that was because I'm actually a woman. And it's like, it's so infuriating when you think back, especially because my gender therapist was a gay man. And it was just like, it's like one of your own kind of leading you down it. And it's really crazy. And
can I say, I think that's going to come up later on with a lesbian therapist saying,
yeah,
luring effectively a woman towards transition at the same time. Extraordinary.
yeah, it's extraordinary. But, you know, all my walls were explained that way, and I was really disconnected with me body. So I tried to do some body work, and all this time, in between seeing him every other week, I'm seeing the psychiatrist every like 4 or 5 months for the checkup, the do you want surgery checkup is what I call them, because it was just every time, do you want surgery? Do you want surgery? Do you want? I was like, wait, no, I'm still working it out. And then eventually, about 2 years into it, me psychiatrist at the gender clinic in 2017 was like, if you don't want this, we're just going to pretty much discharge you, because this is a service. This is not a mental health service. And I'm like, okay. And at that point, I'd pretty much accepted, and maybe I don't want it. And then I had a session with a gender therapist, and had this it was just like lighting like a fire once again. And I was like, oh my God, if I don't do this, not only are my genitals gonna atrophy from the hormones, which they had, but I can't use what I have anyway. I'll be able to wear stupid things like, oh, I'll be able to wear leggings properly and stuff like that. And I was like, I wasn't thinking like, and he was like, yeah. So I got referred. I had me pre-op assessment in that year. It was very, very, very blasé, very relaxed. Me surgeon, when I went to see him at the pre-op, was with two others, because you do it in threes. You get like 2 minutes alone for him to look at the area, but you don't get to speak to him. Any questions that you asked him were intercepted by the head nurse, who was sat between you and the surgeon and the other people next year. And it felt really weird at the time. I was like, oh, it must be so normal that they're just kind of rushing through, because it's such business, and in many ways it is very, very business as usual for them. And then I had the surgery in 2018, pretty much regretted it straight away when I realized I shouldn't have done this. And I went to my gender therapist when I was physically able to, about 3 months after. And I was like, I regret this. And he said, no, you don't. You've got OCD. And I was like, I really can't win with these people. And then they worked to get us referred for OCD treatment. And I'm just like, oh, gee, thanks, guys. And in this too, I'm like, maybe a lot of my problems are also because I'm autistic as well. I've got traits of autism. I was like, no, you don't have autism. I was like, all right, then, okay. Just so you know, I got diagnosed with autism last week, right? So, like
They were
literally
wrong.
Tuesday. Oh yeah, they were wrong about a lot of things.
And when did you get angry? You know, when you said I pretty much regretted immediately. How soon did you kind of get angry, or were you just sad and lost?
Very quick. I was and then they were saying that my aggression and all this sort of thing was because I had unstable personality disorder. So I got that diagnosed as well. So I got my OCD diagnosis reconfirmed, and this new diagnosis of unstable personality disorder. And I was like, you can't even regret it without getting a new bunch of like diagnosis. And I was like, am I not just angry because this shouldn't have happened? No, you have got some like borderline issue. This is what caused it. And you know, and then I believed them for a long time. I really believed them. And I thought, well, this is it now. I need to live my life. So that's what I did. I just buttoned down and just thought, well, this is it, you know. And then I heard about Detrans Awareness Day in 2021, and I completely flipped out. By the way, I reacted negatively. I was like, this is an anti-trans thing to make us miserable. You just here to be cruel to us.
Hang on a second. So you were kind of regretting it.
Yeah.
Saying it shouldn't have happened, and then you saw Detrans Awareness Day, because I'm really interested. I just think there's that phrase lost in transition. Those years.
Oh yeah.
Complicated time where you were like furious, like, what is this crap?
Well, you got to keep in mind, I'd bought into the idea. I wasn't regretting it now. I was just had profound mental health issues that and everything in the world was because of transphobia and all this sort of thing. So the first time Detrans Awareness Day came in 2021, it was actually at work, and a gay guy, very bravely posted it, and I was very embedded. I was running the LGBT group too. I was very, very, very heavily involved, and I tried my best to punish him and get in the unions, get his managers involved. I made his life a living hell
Ritchie.
because I was I was a right little. And then about 6 months later, because it came up once or twice later, and I was like, right, I'm gonna check out this post-trans, right? And these gen spec, who the these people, right? And and then from there, I start reading detransition stories, and I'm going, and then I go into then I went
Detrans stories, and you went, oh my god, I recognize myself.
Yeah. Sinead was one of them. Those are rambles of detransition woman she did, and I was just like, oh my god, I feel the same way. What the and then I started getting into the Detrans Reddit and Discord, and then it kind of unraveled from there. And then back at work, I made contact with the guy. I was like, I am so sorry for what I did. And then I was like, nothing happened, thankfully, but I did write out. I was like, did what I could to like undo the damage that I tried to inflict.
I'm glad you did.
Oh god, I couldn't have lived with myself without doing that, because I know people say, oh, you're very blah 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 blah. I was like, yeah, but it's still no excuse. If you know you've done wrong, you should do your best to try it. And now, since we've become like acquaintances, friends sort of thing, you know what I mean? And
nice.
Yeah, it's really, really lush. She's a really, really cool guy. So that was my experience. And then the Detrans awareness webinar last year.
Oh yeah.
Robin and Limpida started the Detrans Males Discord, and that was a game changer for me, because then all of a sudden I had this group, and then
because lots of people don't know you're so well known in the Detrans circuit, for want of a better phrase. Lots of people don't know you weren't out this time last year. This time last year, we had a webinar with Limpida and with Robin and a few other people, a different Robin, the Robin that's here, and you weren't out.
No, I wasn't. I was.
What made you come out as Detrans as such? What?
Oh well, I don't know. I kind of thought I'd my life a little bit. I was still in the oh my god, my life's but I'm Detrans sort of thing. And I was about to start like YouTube videos and stuff, and then I remember Carol said something about detransitioners coming out and speaking when they've just detransitioned, and I was like, well, I still want to like tweet and stuff, but I was like, this is a bad idea to do videos, because I only started like releasing the YouTube videos a few weeks ago, like the ones that I've started recorded, because when I started recording last year, I was just crying every single one. And I was like, I can't do this. I was like, this is really bad for you. This is not a good thing for somebody to be coming out that way, because it's just that's what you're gonna be remembered for. That's gonna be your shtick. And I see a lot of detransitioners getting captured by this idea that they have to cry and, you know, spill the guts out just to get that bit of attention and that little bit of healing that they so desperately need, but they don't get it. All they do is, it's like you're in this hole, right? And you're like crying out, I'm in this hole. And then people go, oh, I'm so sorry about you being in the hole. And then they continue walking on, right? But there's no one saying, hey, I'm in a hole. Can somebody help us get out? Yeah. You know, that's what I'm looking at. I want to look at detransition as getting out that hole, you know, recovery.
And you've got a good point about that. You're kind of saying, can we reframe this, ironically, on Detrans Awareness Day, but it's a really good point, to recovery from identity, kind of recovery from labels and identity. Is that right? Rather than detransition, it's kind of a new phrasing that you're bringing to the party here.
I'm not interested in changing anyone's language because I know detransition it's a good stepping stone,
Yeah.
detransition. And I think we should keep those terms, they're great,
Mhm.
but it's a stepping stone. It's not an identity. You go from one, you don't want to go from one extreme to the other. This is how we got here, you know? I'm more interested in seeing what I can do to unravel this crap, all these rules about language and how you perceive the world. It's just like untangle all that and then move on with your life. Like, I fully hope that if I ever come back on the Detrans circuit, like in the future, because I'm not quitting yet, but I want to make a gradual exit. I don't want to be doing this forever, right?
Mm,
I want to do the bits that I need to do and then let everyone else just take the reins, because that's kind of where we're getting to.
brilliant.
And yeah, like, I want to live the rest of my life, you know. I went
Yeah.
dancing last week. I went to a rave yesterday. I'm still sore from my rave. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm starting archery in a month, you know. I'm doing the things I'd never do, and I'm gonna go swimming, for God's sake.
Good,
God,
good. I
living.
noticed, yeah, there's an arc that people come out. There's an awful lot of paranoia around. I shouldn't say paranoia, but worry around names and who I am and dare I come out and will I come out. Then often they come out, and then they're angry and distressed, and it's a difficult time, and you can process it. And then and I now need to move on. I need to go to the next chapter, and it sounds like that's where you're going if you're going to a rave like yesterday.
Oh yeah, God, yeah. I mean, you know, there are difficult moments, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. Like, living as I do is not easy. I'm not going to pretend for 1 second it is. I have some very, very difficult days, but that doesn't mean my whole life is. It's it, I don't like that this narrative of everyone's life is totally destroyed. And in many ways, there is a lot of aspects I won't experience because of what's happened. My health is impacted. I will be real about that, and I have been real about that. But at the same point, I want to give other detransitioners a bridge to that recovery and
Ah,
say, yeah, listen, it's not going to be easy, but it's achievable. Absolutely. And a lot of people are finding that.
life beyond trans. There's a couple of things I want to do before we wrap up. One is somebody has name checked the OCD stories. They've talked about the podcast. I remember the book. It's really powerful. If anybody knows anything about OCD, it's a really good kind of thing to look up, OCD stories. And second, there's a question. And third, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the health outcomes, because I know somebody else is going to talk about the health outcomes, and I know you have a little bit to say about it. But just this question, because it's so good. Is there anything from an attendee, is there anything at any time that anybody could have told you that could have made you stop and think or change your mind? Now, I know everybody asks you, but it feels I kind of have to, I have to ask it because it's ringing around everybody's head, you
Listen,
know?
there's a reason people are asking that question. And the reason behind it is there might be a personal experience attached to that. Like, they might have somebody that they're so desperate trying to save, to find this magic bullet, this, you know. And even if it's not that, the reality is, I appreciate the question, but that's not what happened. What should have happened is, the second I got the gender clinic to the professionals, the medical field, that's when the mental health stuff really should have been looked at. That's the problem here. It's not what anyone said. It's not what anyone didn't do enough of. It's not down to either of my parents as an adult or anyone in my family to come and pull us out of it, or anyone else for that matter. It was down to the people who control us.
The ones who are paid very well
Yeah,
to look after people's mental health.
yeah, very well, extraordinarily well. And I know it's hard to say no. It's horrible getting screamed at, I'm sure, but that's what you're getting the big bucks
What
for.
did they say? With privilege comes responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just tell us a little bit before we finish off, because we have to go on. We're going on to lesbian time in a few minutes. We'll be bringing on Carol, Sylvia, and Rachel. But tell us about the health outcomes, because later on we will be talking about other health outcomes for the women. So if you could just give a snapshot, just in case. I don't want to be, negative. I want to be realistic and accurate. And also, have the health outcomes, have they gone through an arc? Like, was it particularly difficult at one point? Did it change? That type of thing.
So you've got the physical health outcomes from surgery, which is surgery related. They are very much dependent on the individual. Everyone experiences varying degrees of difficulty or no difficulty. I've got a lot of urinary issues. I'm scheduled for urethral dilation, which has been put off twice now. I was meant to have it last week and then in a couple of days, and now it's the end of the month. But that's just so I can pee normally. Long term, there's not a lot that can do about all the sensory issue, the pain and all that sort of thing. But outside of that, the physical stuff, with the males, you've got people who have had other surgeries like vocal surgery, facial feminization surgery. They can't move parts of the body, the face. They don't recognize themselves in the mirror completely when they've detransitioned. So there's a great deal of the mental stuff, but the physical stuff, the health stuff, it's very insidious. It's very silent, and you don't see it. You don't see it visibly apparent because it comes over time, and this comes in the form of multiple sclerosis, which came up on one of the chats that I had with the detransitioner. Osteoporosis, you've got the general autoimmunity issues, the fatigue, anemia, you've got the cognitive decline too. I'm always forgetting what I'm saying as well, and I've seen this happen a lot.
Everybody talks about that. Is that definite, or is this kind of one of those rumors? And do you think?
So no, this is where I would come in, where professionals really need to do their job independently from all this and say, we need to look at the evidence, because I've, like, in a very, very basic fact finding and exercise, when I was talking my spiel to Blair White about the testosterone impact in your memory and stuff like this, I found many, many articles that proven over time that low testosterone in males increases cognitive decline, like, massively. And I'm talking like little low testosterone, not no testosterone, little. Guess what else also increases cognitive decline in males? High estrogen, right? So combine these two factors together, we're walking into a crisis, and we are just starting to understand the health impacts of how it is. But there are many, many long-term impacts that knock you over time. And obviously you've got the heart disease and the stroke and those things. Because one thing, Stella, I know you're desperate to come in, one final thing is the biggest killer of people, of males who take estrogen or cross-sex hormones, is cardiovascular disease, amongst all. Like, you're more likely to get a stroke or a heart attack amongst anything else because of what's happening in your blood. That is the killer, not suicide, nothing else, like, overwhelmingly.
We have always wondered, back in the day when I was first working in this world, we were waiting for detransitioners to come out, and we knew they were there, but we were waiting. And then, they came out, and it's been very powerful. It's made a huge difference. It's opened a lot of eyes. Now everybody is waiting for the legal cases. Are you interested in that? Do you think we have enough emphasis on that as a movement, or is this something that we should give more support and emphasis to, or have any thoughts on that just before we finish?
I think the legal side is very dependent on the country. What's happening in the US, for instance, and again, we talk about this on the stream, where a lot is kind of happening in our name, but with no regard for the people who are impacted. So if you're going to forcibly take hormones off someone, for instance, in a bill that bans all hormonal treatment, right? Because that is proposed, for instance, and those people get told, if you don't have hormones, you're going to kill yourself, that idea is going to just synergize, and we're going to see a lot of people taking their own lives when they don't get this. And it's like, I know people are like, well, that's suicide baiting and all that sort of thing, but I'm like, well, I haven't given them an option. We've given them no way of tapering off, given them no alternatives, no discussion. It's just boom, you can't have it. And it's like, what would happen if, you know, we decided as a country we're going to stop all alcoholics from drinking by banning alcohol? And it's like, well, you know, you're going to kill a lot of alcoholics straight away who are physically relying on it, and you can't just like, and I'm not saying it's that severe with hormones, but we need to understand that this is not a mentally fit group of people. These are people who are very distressed, and these people will react in a very, very catastrophic way.
I hear you. And somebody said that we've discussed the health implications related to transition rather than detransition. Interesting. What do you think?
Well, the health implications of detransition, not sure what they mean. I mean, like, I tried taking testosterone for a bit, didn't like it, didn't like what it was doing to my body because of the surgery I had inside, but I don't think synthetic hormones are healthy, full stop. Ideally, I'd like to come off all HRT, because they're only, if you want to like split hairs, the only real detransition is escaping the medical leash as well as the mindset. And for some of us, we are leashed for life without risking severe side effects. So if I take no hormones, and I tried this last year, I tried it for several months. Zero energy for a start. I was sleeping like 16 hours a night on average. I was sweating uncontrollably. I was really tired. I couldn't focus. And it was like a very half existence, you know. So I don't know, unless another alternative presents itself, I don't think like detransition. I think it's probably healthier. It's definitely healthier for the female body from the people that I've talked to. But I understand some others are going to touch on this subject later.
Well, thank you, Ritchie. That was very, very interesting.